All right. Well, hello and good evening. Kind of a impromptu stream tonight. I mean, don't usually stream on Sunday nights, but I want to do a little bit of mini painting tonight. I had some time, and apparently I'm going to have a lot of time tomorrow. Because I don't know if you're paying attention to what's going on across the Midwest right now, but we are buried in a shit ton of snow. So, yeah, I am one of the places that got buried. There's about 10 to 12 inches of snow in my front yard right now, and my car is buried. So I've already notified my place of regular employment that I will not be in tomorrow. So that is that. But fortunately, before all this BS started, I was able to get to the local Warhammer store in the next town over. And I was intending on getting the mini of the month, but unfortunately that didn't happen. They didn't have them yet, so hopefully the roads are clear enough this weekend. I can go get my, was it Striking Scorpion mini for the month and go pick it up. But since I drove all the way down there and I intended on picking one of these up anyway, I have grabbed, if I get it on the right camera, a Brutalis Dreadnought to put together. So that will be in the future at some point. We're still working our way through my Black Templar Combat Patrol. Still have quite a ways to go to get through that. But as I'm building out this army, I very much intended to have 2 Brutalis Dreadnoughts in my army list. And so now I have one of those purchased and out of the way. And at some point in the future, I will actually get to paint that guy. The only question is whether or not I'm going to be able to either get a resin 3D printer in time before I start painting it, or if I might just try and order it online somewhere. There is a really cool kit that is 3D printed that goes on top of the Brutalis Dreadnought that has like this giant power sword. I was like, that'd be way too cool to get that and either have it printed or get it ordered for that mini. So we'll see what we can do about that. Like I said, that's going to be down the road a ways because I have all 4 neophytes to finish painting. I've got 2 started, 2 more to start on. I've got 2 initiates left to paint. They're kind of hiding off screen over here. I have the marshal to do. I've got the 5 intercessors to paint. Then I have an Emperor's Champion and Grimaldus. I think Grimaldus will be the next box I open up once I get everything done out of here. I do have to do the marshal from the Combat Patrol. I've been practicing painting heads and faces for these guys, and I don't know where I left their heads at. Where'd they go? Well, that's going to be very upsetting if I've lost my heads. They were on my desk. Everything has been on my desk. Even after moving my desk and changing my desks. Anyway, the one that comes in the Combat Patrol, the Marshal, I've been practicing painting faces to get to the point where I feel comfortable, painting High Marshal Helbrecht when I get him. But this is one of the faces that I painted. I think this is, the second best one I've done. But, finally painted the one that I intend to use for my Marshal. That's this guy here. Even though he'll probably never wind up on the tabletop because I am running characters like High Marshal Helbrecht at some point. Here's another one. Looks kind of crazy. Anyway. Where are those? They're around here. I will find them. The two heads that I have intended for these guys, I don't know where they went. Oh. And as I say that, I see them. So these are the two neophytes that I'm painting their bodies right now. But that's what we're working on. And now that we're past all the preliminary stuff, I suppose, I guess before we move on to touch-ups, I'm gonna go ahead and start painting, because I mean obviously I've messed with the tabard color and got a big blob on his knee, and the dry brushing around the arms that I did is all over the black. But instead of going back and focusing on fixing my spots of black, I'm gonna go ahead and start on painting in the belts, get that portion of the mini started, just in case I end up getting a little bit of paint in places that I don't want it. Get out my Mornfang Brown. That's the color I use on the belts on these guys. Let's get this shook up a little bit. And let's get into some painting, because that's what we're here to do tonight. Sorry for the long-winded intro. But that's just what happens when I haven't had a chance to paint for a few days. I want to recap what we've done before, tell you what we plan on doing tonight. Scoop some of this out. And onto my wet palette over here. I know, you're supposed to like use the back of your brush. But the backs of these brushes are like super fat, so I don't really want to dip that into my paint and then have to clean it off. We'll go ahead and get a little water and thin that Mornfang Brown down. And we'll start going over these belts. Get a little bit of extra water out of my brush. Put on my reading glasses for a little bit of magnification so I can see these details here. And we'll just start putting that paint on. Being very careful not to get any on the tabard that we've already painted. As I paint these things, you know, I post my progress on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. Although Instagram never seems to share my content, so they're pretty well worthless. And I'll continue to say that until they get better about sharing content. But we're just going to work our way around the belt and his pouches and get all that colored in. So we want to be careful we're not getting any paint where we don't want it. And if we, have to make a couple of extra passes to get good coverage, we can do that. And like I said, yeah, just carefully painting in these leather belts. Now, to be honest with you folks, I haven't played Warhammer since 5th edition. Looking forward to being able to get back into the tabletop game. Had actually planned on meeting up with somebody to do kind of a reintroduction game earlier this afternoon, but due to extremely uncooperative weather, and I know I just got big blobs of paint everywhere that I didn't want it. That's why we go back and touch up. Unfortunately, due to the weather, we weren't able to meet up and get that reintroduction game in. But there will be time for that in the future. Like I said, I have a long ways to go before my Templars are ready to make their debut on the tabletop. I do have, I think right around 1,000, maybe a little more than 1,000 points in Necrons. From when I used to play years ago. And a local game shop is doing something called a Coliseum tournament that I might go play in, or at least go spectate, kind of as a reintroduction to 40k, because like I said, I haven't played in many years. But yeah, we're just kind of carefully making our way around the model. Now, some of those spots will get covered up with washes and whatnot, so you don't have to worry excessively about them. But you don't just want to be haphazardly smearing paint all over your models. But yeah, just keep working your way around, making sure you get your paint where you need it. Coworkers sending me pictures, I'm assuming, of the amount of snow he got today, which I can't look at because the camera right up there that you're viewing my work through is my cell phone, so I can't check it anyway. But I assume lots of us will be, if they haven't already, will be calling in tomorrow. I work as a delivery driver, so snow-covered roads do not work real well for a delivery driver. So I tried to call him. I did. I tried to call my employer, my supervisor. Hey, Complicated Gaming, how's it going? I'm assuming if you're watching a 40K painting channel, you must like complicated gaming. Because 40K seems to be a very complicated game. I was saying earlier, I used to play years ago, but due to moving and financial reasons, I quit playing. And since Space Marine 2 came out, really wanted to get back into the hobby. So I went out and bought a bunch of minis and have started painting them again. Primarily my channel was video game playing. Not that I have done much with streaming at this point. Just something I do as a hobby. It entertains me. Yeah, I could, like, I'm really trying to get these guys done because I just couldn't go, I couldn't go to the tabletop with an unpainted army. That's just me. I couldn't do it. Yeah, the warmer weather has been an issue for me as well, or the lack thereof, I guess. Sorry, I can't talk. The lack thereof, I guess I should say, because we haven't had very much warm weather in a while now. And I'm currently sitting with 10 plus inches of snow in my front yard. So definitely not priming any minis right now, unless I figure out some way to, really turn up the heat in my garage. That should work. One belt done. Yeah, I see because not that I spend an excessive amount of time on Reddit, because that is a very strange place. I have seen some very jacked up primer jobs due to cold weather. From people posting pictures like, what happened to my mini? Like, you primed it when it was -2 outside. That's what happened to your mini. Yeah, we're currently working on the Black Templar Combat Patrol. These are the neophytes that I'm currently painting. So far from this box, I've been able to get the impulsor done and 4 initiates in like a month of painting, or maybe more than a month of painting, because I have to be an adult and go to work and make money for plastic soldiers. So I don't have a lot of free time to spend on all the little randomness that I would like to do in my free time. And then, of course, I have other commitments throughout the week. I've got a D&D group that I stream our sessions on Monday night. So if everybody's available to show up, that's what we'll be doing tomorrow night, is streaming our D&D session. We're currently running the Rime of the Frost Maiden campaign. We've been working on that for quite a while now because we're all old and have jobs and live all over the country now. We all used to live in the same town, but since we started playing and things like COVID happened, some of us have moved to other locations. We got a couple out in Florida. Our DM ended up moving, or our current DM moved out to California. I don't think anybody lives in the town we started in anymore. We're all just kind of scattered to the four winds. Rest of us in Kansas, which is why half of us are buried in snow right now. I'm sorry, I'm chewing gum on stream. I have a bad, nicotine habit. Oh, thank you. Actually, that's only partially done. I haven't put the greenery on yet. That comes later after I've clear coated these guys to keep the paint from rubbing off. But eventually, I add the rest of that on there. But I always start with painting the basing first, and then get the mini done, and then go back and add the details at the end. And my basing technique has definitely changed over the years. Like when I first started doing minis, it's like, oh, just put fake grass all over the base. That'll work. And they look all right, but you go back and you like look at your earlier minis and you're like, I wish I'd done something different. Or if I'm just in a rush to get something on the tabletop or just messing around, like this one was for a D&D campaign. Well, I was painting ones for D&D campaigns and just kind of painted this guy up. Oops, didn't mean to drop him. Oh well, it's all right. It's just an ASMR paladin. He'll be fine. He'll lay on hands himself and be back to full health in no time. Do need a little bit more paint out. Yeah, when I'm painting these guys, I usually do 2 at a time. Keeps me being able to move along on a model in case there's like a wash or something that I'm doing that needs a little bit of extra time to dry. They don't dry super fast, but if I'm working on another mini for 5 or 10 minutes, that wash will dry up enough where I can get back to work on the first one as I'm doing the second one. But after starting on these guys, oh man, I will take an initiate over a neophyte any day of the week. These guys are kind of a pain in the ass to I was not expecting them to be as difficult as they are. But it's fine. It is what it is. I'm going to paint these guys. I want them to look, hopefully they end up looking nice. And I'll just keep going from there. Hopefully I'm doing a halfway decent job of keeping this guy in frame where you can see what I'm doing. Not that, you know, my painting is spectacular by any means. But some folks like to see, you know, how you do what you do on your minis. I know there's been a few times, like the color scheme that I'm following is based on a YouTube video by Duncan Rhodes. So I guess he was, you know, some, you know, big well-known Games Workshop painter. Like when I found the video, and I'd been out of the hobby for so long, I had no idea who he was. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense why I like the way he painted his minis. Because he's important to the hobby because he used to paint them for Games Workshop. Trying to make sure I got the top of this pouch covered real well, but it's at kind of an awkward angle to hit with the brush. And my brush is doing weird stuff. The bristles aren't exactly staying straight the way I want them to. I think this is the one that I had to trim. I had one. Had some weird things going on with the brush tip. Had like a super long hair coming out of the end of it for no reason. So I had to get in there and carefully trim that one down. But since then, that brush has been much easier to use. You don't have that one super long hair sticking out, getting into spots where you don't want to be getting paint. We're just kind of going back, going over a few spots again, making sure we got good coverage. Because we're about to do, well, not about to. At a future point, we'll be doing a wash on the belts. Some Agrax Earthshade. So you want to make sure you got at least a good base coat on them. But that looks good. For the belts on them, for now. So we're going to rinse this brush out and swap colors and swap brushes. That little blob of paint out of there. It's causing my brush to do weird stuff. Yeah, one of the things that I've learned since, you know, starting the hobby back up again is have different brushes for different things. This one is a Citadel brush I bought when I got the new models I started working on. I've already messed it up. So it's now my wash brush. I do like all my washes with it. This is a brush that I've had for a while. This has a pretty decent tip on it. I use it for my metallics. Excuse me, need a drink. Because washes and metallics get into your brushes and tear them up. I mean, the washes just, soak back to the end of the bristles here and cause problems. The metallics, have little, basically metal flakes in them that tear up your brush as well. So try and keep your brushes separate and specialized. So we're switching over to Balthazar Gold for the emblem on the chest and the belt buckles, because all these parts will end up with that Agrax Earthshade wash done on them. But keep a little extra water in your brush when you're doing metallics, because they gunk up your brush super quick. Yeah, it's very frustrating. I've got a little tub of rubbing alcohol on my desk next to me. I've got the brush soap that I use at the end of my streams. All that, trying to keep my brushes fresh and try and get them to hold their shape. But for some reason, never quite works out to keep them looking as good as they did when you first got them. But it is what it is. Although I have learned, particularly recently, cheap brushes from Hobby Lobby. That's where you need to invest your time and your money. Cheap brushes from Hobby Lobby. I bought one of the, fancy army painter brushes. This thing doesn't hold a tip for shit. It made me so mad. The other day, I'm trying to do some painting with it, and it's just not working, not cooperating the way I want it to. And I'd painted like 2 minis with it, and it just had issues. But this $4 brush from Hobby Lobby holds an amazing point, a lot of water, and a good amount of paint, and I don't have near as many issues with it since I picked it up. Like I said, especially when painting with metallics, try and keep a little extra water in your brush to keep the paint flowing off nice and easy. For me, anyway, it helps. Also, metallics seem to gunk up in your brush really, really quick. So the little bit of extra water also helps prevent some of that from happening while you're going around the mini. I also apologize. I get a little quiet when I'm doing like super fine details because, like, if I'm too loud, I'll mess it up. Can't be too loud. Need the extra focus. Oh, and there are so many just teeny tiny little details on these guys. Everywhere you look, it's another little spot. But like I said, I played during 5th edition, so it was the old, I guess they're called Firstborn Marines now. I've recently been exposed to the Primaris Marines, and not just specifically from a lore standpoint, but from a miniature standpoint. And the Primaris Marine miniatures look so good, which is of course why I'm putting together a Black Templar army now, because the minis do look so good. Tap this little button right there. Not that anyone will ever see that minuscule detail, but that's just how I paint my minis. You can put as much or as little effort into your minis as you want. Why? Because they're yours. You can paint them however you want them. You can assemble them however you want them. You can do all sorts of weird stuff with them, with kit bashing and whatnot. Whether it conforms to lore or not. You know why? Because they are your minis. I don't care about all the culture war stuff. It irritates me, all the culture war stuff, but it is what it is. People are going to find things to fight about. Am I going to agree with all of it? No. Am I going to disagree with all of it? No. I'm just going to drop my mini and have it bounce across the table into my wet palette. Fortunately, not into any of the paint. Hey. Although I will say, at some point, I do need to figure out a little bit better of a lighting situation in here. I used to have like all of this area on my desk now that I have focused in on, crammed in at the end of my gaming desk, like right next to the keyboard and the edge of the desk, and that's where I would try and paint all this stuff at. I now have my own dedicated separate hobby desk, which is very nice because I needed the extra space to be able to get my paint spread out to where I can identify them a little bit quicker and easier. Did 3D print a bunch of like little paint holder racks or whatever you want to call them. Little tiered shelving for paints, so I can keep them somewhat organized. I try and keep it organized in like what layer I do for each color of paint. Like right now I'm doing the Balthazar gold, and then I'll highlight with Sycorax bronze. So the Sycorax bronze will sit on the little paint rack right behind the Balthazar gold, just like Abaddon black, and then Dark Reaper, and then Eshin gray and stuff like that for the different layers to highlight the armor pieces. And as I'm going around this many, I see something that I probably missed on the other guy. He's got a little Crusade seal back here. I'm pretty sure this guy had one. Let me look at him real quick. Oh, apparently no, he did not. Maybe I added one to his buddy. That's why I'm thinking I missed one. Yeah, I'll sit there and spin these guys over 57 times trying to make sure I didn't miss any spots on them. And I've painted outside the lines a little bit again, but it's fine. That's why we do this as a process. So we can, spot when we make a little mistake like that and then go back and touch up. Like this guy has this huge spot of tan on his knee from his tabard where my hand slipped. I just hadn't gone back to touch that up yet. But it will get done. Clean that up a little bit. Yeah, we're just trying to make sure we got good coverage on everything without clogging up the details. So when we go back and start doing our washes. So complicated. Are you in one of these wonderful places across the Midwest that has had all sorts of weather, snow in particular, dumped on you? Because I got way more than I wanted to deal with today. And will not be upset when it goes away. Actually posted a TikTok earlier saying that I can't wait for it to go away in not so nice terms. I am not a fan of cold weather at all. All right. I think that's it for Balthazar Gold. Not ready to do the washes just yet. Go ahead and start painting the weapons. So for the swords and the bolt pistols, I start off with Mephiston Red. I'm gonna dig a little bit of that out and throw it on the wet palette. Because we have to use a little bit more of this than we do some of our other colors. We got the whole long side of the chain swords to do, and the pistols, and any crusade seals that are hanging off these guys. Add some water, thin down a little bit. It's also a nice thing about using a wet palette. That's a thing I've discovered since starting back into miniature painting, is using a wet palette. Didn't know such a thing existed. But has really helped with keeping my paint ready to paint with. But yeah, this is my, $4 Hobby Lobby brush. Makes painting these chain swords super easy. Just big long stripe of red, and then turn it, big long stripe of red. So that is why I will say over and over again, if you're looking for a good brush, run over to Hobby Lobby. Get you some of their $4 acrylic brushes. And again, sorry if my overhead camera vibrates at weird times. As I've said before, that's my cell phone, because I don't, have a lot of extra money, as this is my hobby, to buy super fancy cameras. I just use what I have available. Like this camera is a super shitty Logitech camera that I think I got for 10, 15, maybe $20 at Micro Center. Works just fine. The one that I have on my gaming setup, it's a Logitech C920. Works just fine for a streaming camera. Like, you don't have to have the absolute best of the best stuff to stream with. Just get some stuff that works. And streaming yourself painting minis, I mean, you automatically have content. You don't really have to make a script and put a lot of like in-depth research to it. I mean, of course, find your color scheme that you're going to be painting your minis. But other than that, it's just turn on the camera and go to town. Steal one of these guys, see how his gun is painted. Because I forget every 5 minutes. I definitely try and stay consistent with how I paint my army. Want, some cohesiveness to it. That way, because Black Templars have such a standard color scheme. And apparently, despite some stupid people doing stupid things in the name of the chapter, there's still a fairly popular army to play. So chances are pretty good that at some point I may come across another person playing Black Templars, and I don't want my models getting mixed up with theirs. So if I know exactly how my paint scheme is, even though it's based on Duncan Rhodes' YouTube video for a majority of it, there are specific things that I do with how I paint my guys that he didn't do. So they're more readily identifiable to me as being, yep, that's my mini. I couldn't imagine, as much time as it takes to paint these guys, to run into a situation where you mistakenly either pick up somebody else's minis, or they mistakenly, or not actually mistakenly, grab your minis off the table and try and take off with them. I would not be happy. Tell you that real quick. And like I said, that has more to do with the amount of time I'm spending on these guys than anything else. Kind of a combination of time spent and money spent. Because these guys aren't cheap. And that box, like $160 for the minis that came in it. I'd not be happy if someone tried to take off with my stuff. And I'm sure most other people are the exact same way. Now, my Necrons, on the other hand, those are easy to spot unless I'm playing somebody that, used to play back from the time that I did. Because some of my minis, They don't make those models anymore. My tomb spiders look very different than the current edition. And I guess they're not even called tomb spiders anymore. They're like canoptic spiders or something like that. Something different. Pull a little bit of excess paint back out of here so I'm not clogging up details. That should be it on those ones. I said, see, he's got a Crusade seal hanging off of his armor plate. Sorry, I bumped my microphone. Crusade seals I paint red. So make sure I don't miss that while I'm working on this guy. And it just gives these minis a little bit of extra color, you know, because they're basically black and white for the Black Templars. Hey, Spoon Handle, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Tablespoon getting them orcs done. I think I saw you live again the other night. It was late and I didn't have a chance to log in and say what's up. I apologize. Oh, yeah. Getting boys ready for war. Some of them out there need a right kicking. Orcs have always been an interesting faction to me. Some of the guys that play them, like back when I played, were a trip to be around. They definitely enjoyed their orcs. But they're also one of those armies, like, I don't know what the points value breakdown is on them, because aren't they more of a horde army? So you end up having like a bunch of models for a really cheap price. So you got to paint a bunch of models to get the points on the table. Blob of paint in the end of my brush. It's obnoxious. That's the only thing I don't like about these paints, is you end up with that little blob at the end. You gotta rinse your brush out real quick and knock it off of there, and then get back to painting. And that's, you know, acrylic paints in general, not just the Citadel paints. Come on. There we go. Wasn't getting any paint off the brush. So did you get any of this wonderful weather there, Spoon? When I went out and measured earlier, I had about 10 inches of snow in my front yard. So, needless to say, I've already called in for tomorrow. Oops, sorry. Jammed my elbow into my desk, shook everything. I may have just watered my paint down too much. I guess we'll find out. Oh, the joys of painting. Yep, that paint is super thin right now. This will take a few coats. But it's all good. Just means I get to help hide my brush strokes a little bit for a few minutes. Yeah, just gonna make our way around this chain sword. And again, sorry for getting quiet. I always do that when I'm trying to do some small details. Not that the side of a chainsword is a small detail. But you have those little bits and pieces there around the end that need a little bit more attention. Like I said, I added a little bit too much water, so this is going to take a few thin coats. But it's all good. We'll get the result we want. Have to be very, very careful not to touch the other side of this chainsword for a few minutes. That's what happens, though. Yeah, I'm getting some weird lag issues. What's going on? I saw my screen freeze up for a second. Thought there was something wonky going on with the stream. Hopefully you guys didn't see that. Hopefully it was only on my end. But my computer didn't recognize anything. But my computer could be lying to me too. I'm hoping I'm not overwhelming it, because I've started not only streaming to Twitch, but this should be on YouTube as well. But I don't have, or haven't figured out, a good method other than the multiple chat login program that I'm using. I don't even know what it's called. To make sure that YouTube is even going right now. I had some issues with it the other day. Like, I was live on Twitch, but YouTube didn't think I was doing shit. Pardon my French. But I'm a Marine, and old habits die hard. Not active duty anymore, but it is what it is. All right. I think that's it for the red right now. I'll get good coverage on both of those. All right. Gonna get back to some metallics real quick. It's time to start putting some silver details on. And get out the old lead belcher. Yeah, let's not wipe our brush just randomly across our wet palette. Let me grab a drink real quick. Oh, and these guys may not have shoulder pads for a while, because when I was able to prime them, I forgot to prime all the shoulder pads, so they're bare gray plastic. So I'm a little irritated with myself about that. Oh, what did I say I was doing? Lead belcher. Let's get into lead belcher. That is Dawnstone, not lead belcher. There it is. Gotta love it when big blobs of your paint dry into your pots. Look at that. Look at that. Waste of paint. Just a waste of paint. So obnoxious. Okay. So our lead belcher can go all along the teeth of our chainsword right here. I'm getting to that point on my mini, like, oh, I'm getting so close to being able to use washes. That's the exciting part, when you throw the washes on there, get all those little details popping out everywhere. Washes, Null Oil, Agrax Earthshade, straight talent in a bottle. They're amazing. Love washes. Like if you've never used them before, you're new to painting minis, starting to use washes is an incredible thing. And everybody that paints minis will tell you, yeah, use washes. Just wait till you get to start using washes. They add so much depth and detail to your models. They're so much fun to use. Brush is doing weird things right now. It's not wanting to maintain a good point. I got a little bit too dry. You have to have paint on it to paint there, dum-dum. The local game stores just sent out a notification that they will not be open tomorrow due to inclement weather. And if you're in Kansas right now and you enjoy snow, I hope you're getting your fill right now. Because if you continue to say, oh, I still want snow, you're probably going to get beat up. Just saying. I think everybody else is at their fill at this point with just one day of snow. And you know, I'm joking a little bit. We haven't had snow like this in a long, long time. So it's not something that we're used to this much. Of course, there's probably people in Minnesota like 10 inches. Oh my God, what are you crying about? Like, we don't usually get that much snow in Kansas. So you have to bear with us while we get upset about it. I understand you from the frozen north are used to a little bit more extremes. We're not. Usually get like, probably around 6 to 8 inches or so. Anytime like we get a heavy snow, what we have right now is excessive. And not something, like I said, not something that we're used to having as being folks from Kansas. Trying to make sure I pull excess paint out of there if it's gotten in there, because you want to be able to keep the details in that chain sword. Or at the very least, I want to be able to keep those details in the chain sword. Do a little bit of touch up, but the washes don't take care of that extra paint that I got on there. But it's all good. Ew, it just blobbed everywhere on that one, darn it. Oh well. Can't be perfect everywhere. You will have your little oops moments. That's exactly what that one was. Big oops moment. All over my mini. Unfortunately, it's in a spot that's fairly well hidden, but I am going to fix it. Yeah. Look at that. Oh, let me get it on there. See all that just big old blob all around that magazine release. Oh, well. Oh, and look at me missing like half of the hilt of the sword. That would have been embarrassing. Not only that, but the skull at the end of it. Jeez. Pay attention. Come on, streamer guy. Paint your minis right. Dang, getting those metallic crusties in the end of my brush. There we go. And then, of course, there's another detail on this guy. These guys in general. That I intend to do silver. Going all the way up on that one. There we go. Alrighty, I think that's got the silver done on this one. Almost. See? That's why I flip my minis around constantly, because I always find a little bit extra spots to paint. I know I had to do some touch up around this back here. Sorry. Whacking my microphone. This is one of those spots where, you know, it's a foregone conclusion I'm gonna have to do some touch up. But of course, the other issue I'm having is, I mean, you can probably see it like right there on the corner of the backpack. You can see the paint starting to wipe off from me handling it, flipping it around. That is one of the problems that you will experience painting minis. But at the same time, I know a lot of those areas are ones that I'm going to have to go back and touch up anyway. So we will revisit those spots regardless. And if you're using a wet palette, don't do what I just did. Of course, it was just such a teeny tiny tap. It won't matter because I was just trying to grab some water into my brush. If you're using a wet palette, do not use metallic paints on your wet palette. Otherwise, all of your paint will end up looking like glitter. That is what happens. All right. Give the paint another quick shake to mix it back up because that pot's been open for a little while. Try not to leave my brush standing in the water for very long. Grab a drink. And then we'll get to the other guy. What is this? This is Brother Seamus. Or who's going to be Brother Seamus? Why? Because I'm weird. And actually named one of my minis. Because he's very pale skinned with red hair. And I'm not trying to be mean to Irish people. But it was funny in my head. And most Irish people can actually take a joke. Accept donations to name a mini? Yeah. Might do that at some point. But I don't want to end up with, something like Mr. Templar McTemplar face. If you know the Buddy McBoatface story. But of course, I've done stuff like that. My social media accounts like scroll underneath my camera. Like I've tried putting polls up on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it at this point. Same thing. And nobody responds to them. I mean, granted, nobody sees them. But of the handful of people that the algorithm actually shows it to, nobody responds to it. Nobody votes on it. So it's like, meh, whatever. And of course, I don't put, my value, my personal value in a social media following. I genuinely feel sorry for people who make that their existence. Because, man, I've seen some people get bent out of shape online because people didn't like their post or agree with their post or whatever. And they just absolutely lose it. It's like, dude, you need to understand, not everybody always agrees with you, and you are not going to be right 100% of the time. It is what it is. I see so many people on TikTok right now that are absolutely losing it. Oh my god, TikTok's getting banned. I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, why haven't you followed me over here? I've got so many followers on TikTok. You need to follow me over here. Follow me over here now. It's like, Do you really get every single one of your followers to view every single one of your TikToks? I know I don't. I know that for a fact. I have friends and family that, I'm friends with on TikTok that haven't seen half of the videos that I've posted. And I'm not gonna get all bent out of shape because they didn't see it. But you have the, like I said, so many accounts I've seen, especially in the Warhammer community, just absolutely losing their minds about TikTok potentially going bye-bye. So, I mean, if it's something you're concerned about, yes, expand other platforms. I have way more followers on TikTok than any other platform, but I get way more views on YouTube Shorts than I do on TikTok. Just post your stuff over there. I mean, if people really like it, they'll follow. People that are watching TikTok, don't care about long form content. They're not going to, that's why they're not following you on YouTube. That's why they're not following you on these other social media platforms. Because all they want is that, 3-second endorphin hit of, ooh, he made me laugh. And that's as far as their brain works. Those viewers aren't going to transfer to a long form content platform. So calm down. If your content is worthwhile, you will still find an audience on other platforms. You'll be fine. Move on with your life. Now, I guarantee if there's a way to check how many of your TikTok followers were actually real people, some of those guys would be sorely disappointed that, half of their viewers to 2/3 of their viewers don't actually exist. But they have to learn on their own. Yep. Getting metallic chunks of paint in my brush again. I'm getting paint all over the place where I don't want it. But it's fine. And of course my hands want to shake when I have to do it. Little itty bitty teeny tiny spot. Hear my wife upstairs thumping around with the puppy all over the house. Making noise. So I guess I forgot to ask, Complicated Gaming, What army do you run? Or do you run an army? Or paint minis at all? Or just like watching random people ramble on the internet? Sisters? Ah, yes. Sisters have some of the coolest vehicles. I'm trying to get my wife into them. The Exorcist tank is just way too cool. I'm sorry. Rocket launcher pipe organ tank. Yes. Oh, I'm sure. I convinced her to get the emulator, and it's still sitting in the box. She hasn't even started on it yet. And she says I'm probably going to end up being the one that paints it if it ever gets painted. Which is fine. I accept that. Oh wow, I missed like most of the chainsword. Okay there, dum-dum. Paint your mini. But yeah, the sisters have some of the coolest vehicles. And then of course everybody talks about the Nundums. Big mech suits that they have. I don't want to call them the wrong thing. I don't think they're penitent engines. I think those are what they stick messed up people in. But Mortifier, I'm not as familiar with the faction as I'd like to be. Of course, like most guys, of course I know about the Sisters Repentia. Everybody knows about Sisters Repentia, but I don't know the names of their vehicles, other than like the Exorcist tank and the Immolator. Dummy mummy nuns. Yep. Everybody's like, oh, if you play Sisters, you like feet and boobs. I mean, not entirely wrong. I mean, personally for me, much less on the feet department. But it's mostly I like some of their lore and their vehicles. Don't judge me. I'm just trying to paint this fleur-de-lis real quick. Yeah. Saint Celestine. What's his name? I don't know if you ever listened to lore videos on YouTube, but Voldemort. Sorry, I've got restrictions on what my chat can say, so it doesn't get too R-rated. I apologize. But Voldemort does like lore videos on YouTube, has some amazing like Sisters lore that not only he's written or does presentations of, just really good. So If you're ever looking for lore videos to listen to, check out Baldermort on YouTube, and I probably don't have to tell people that if they're already into 40k. Because if you're into 40k, you probably know who Baldermort is. Oh. Yeah, sorry, I don't I think I can see them. Like I can go back in and see the links, but when I was setting up my YouTube channel or my Twitch channel, it was like, don't allow links. Links can get you in trouble. So that's why your messages aren't coming through if they're links. Sorry. Just one of those things I prefer to prevent from being a problem before it's ever a problem. Like I said, I think I don't know, maybe not. I should be able to like look at them. Maybe not in the chat program that I'm currently using, but I think I can go into like my Twitch chat. Let me see here. Docs. Chat. Nope, doesn't like that one. Docs. How about this one? Oh, come on, stupid thing. My computer is being obnoxious. Yeah, I don't know. I should be able to find them. But, I mean, you can go ahead and DM them to me or whatever. Sorry. It's just one of those, you know, for the safety of the channel. Because I am so small, I have to make sure certain things get screened. I don't want to get banned off of Twitch and YouTube and all that stuff before I even really get started. So I apologize. Okay. Sorry, there's just some little fine details on these guys' arms that I don't want to miss. Because I'm assuming they're hookup points for when they actually get their power armor. They got these little sockets and knobs on their arms. I'll make sure I get painted. That I almost forgot to do, like I always do. I'll like miss something until I'm like almost completely done with the model and like, ah, oh, damn it. I gotta go back and do that again. Yeah, that too. Yeah, apparently there's all sorts of fun concoctions that, you know, make people fight better in the Imperium. And, you know, for the unfortunate souls who end up in the Dreadnought armor, I'm sure they get lots of those little special cocktails. Oh, on Space Marine diet, they can eat whatever they want. There are some lore implications on that one. I mean, they'll crack an enemy's head open and eat a chunk of brain and figure out where they've been and who they've been hanging out with. There's some interesting sections of the lore about that ability. And the fact that it's an implanted organ that allows them to do that, along with spitting acid. I definitely need to take some more time to get into more of the lore, actually read or listen to the whole Horus Heresy series. Yeah. I don't know. Salamanders are too Careberry for me, but I think they've got a cool chapter and some cool lore. Like Vulcan is a cool character. Their Primarch. But Necrons, since you mentioned that, was my original army. When I first played many, many moons ago. I had my army bag in here somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, you have to have nice guys in every faction. But I can date myself a little bit with these minis because these are the monoliths that I have. They do not make this model anymore. I've seen TikToks of people actually recreating this this version of the monolith. But I've got two of them that are actually assembled. When I was putting them together, I was putting this one together. This is my second one. The reason I can... Yeah, the one with the giant ring pop. When I was putting this one together, I found out it was missing a couple of the glowing rods, or the green rods that go in there. So I emailed Games Workshop about it, saying, hey, could I get a couple of those plastic rods to finish my model? That way I don't have gaping holes in the side of my model where this green rod should be. You know, got a pretty quick response. Oh yeah, we'll send those out to you real soon. Next thing I know, an entire third monolith, the entire model, shows up at my house. I'm like, I didn't ask for a whole model, but I appreciate it. And to this day, that model is sitting in its original box, unassembled. But those were neat minis. And they also had one of the most boring minis that I've ever seen. And of course, I altered mine a little bit. This is a tomb spider. Normally, it sits like this on the base, and all the legs are supposed to be facing the same direction. I made mine a little more aggressive. Added a blob of green stuff here to have it stand up on the stand instead of it just kind of floating there. But showing off that guy, I also have to show off my other one, which also has the first Space Marine that I ever painted. So that's the first Space Marine I ever painted, meeting an unfortunate end at the hands of a tomb spider. And because I did that, I needed a special scarab base to go with the tomb spider. So there's another one of my early Space Marines and kind of a custom scarab base, because so many Necron models were so boring. I had to do something. And unfortunately, not that he's going to be that hard to fix. I just need to glue his arm back on. But he's actually shooting at one, but his arm broke off. I need to super glue it back on. But yeah, those are my Necrons. I think I have around 1,000 points of Necrons, because I never actually finished building out an army with them, because time and money got constrained and life happened. But that was about 15 years ago, and a lot can change over the course of 15 years. And now I'm in a much better, happier place, and I can waste money on plastic soldiers again. Although not excessively. The wife will get upset. Happy spouse, happy house. Always remember that. And it's not just happy wife, happy life. Because if your wife's happy and you're miserable, things aren't going to go well anyway. So it's an equal pairing. Both people have to be happy. At least that's how I view it. Alright, let's take a look at these guys. Make sure I'm not missing anything that I really wanted to get painted. I think we're about to move on to our talent in a bottle and do some washes. Break out the old Nuln Oil and Agrax Earthshade for various parts of the mini. Yep, I think we've got what we intended to do on those guys. mouth. My wet palette is drying out. And yes, I use a homemade wet palette because there are certain things that if I can do it myself, I'm just going to do it myself. Why spend the extra money if I can get an approximately equivalent product out of it? Sorry, throwing away that chunk of lead belcher that came out of the pot. Which I'm probably going to have to go buy another bottle. Maybe not. Let's see what this one looks like. This one is my original pot of lead belcher that is like 15 years old, so I don't know how good a quality it is at this point. This one I bought when I bought the new minis, so I might experiment with that other bottle or other pot at some point. But right now, going to get out our brush that we use for washes because we've already ruined the brush. And we are going to start out with some Agrax Earthshade. And we're going to go around the belt and across his chest with the Agrax Earthshade. Get some in your brush, and you're just gonna kind of smear it on there. Not too much, like take a little bit off. See, I've got tons and tons on this side of his chest right here. So we're just gonna pull some of that back off with the brush, making sure we get all of that covered real well. And around the buckle and all over the belt. And if you have to pull a little bit more off from up here on his chest, because you just want that to bring out all the lines and add some more shading. I think that's a good level for it there. Like I said, we're going to go across his belt sections here, especially around the tabard. I really don't want to get any more on the tabard because that tabard is finished and I don't want to mess that up. Or almost finished. There's like one more round of highlights to do on the tabard. Just getting that Agrax Earthshade going across all your little leather and belts and everything. Plus it helps bring out those little details around the knot in the belt right there. Of course, a little bit around the back side of it. That should be good for him. His battle brother up here. And again, do the same thing. Good coverage on there, getting to all those little nooks and crannies to highlight those details. Yes, I know I'm gonna have to go in and touch some things up. Like, you can't see it, fortunately, the chainsword's in the way. So there's a spot I need to touch up. It's there, trust me. But then around his belt buckle, around his little pouches and whatnot. Like I said, your washes are 100% liquid talent. They do so much for your minis and require such minimal effort to use. So, highly recommend using inks and washes. Of course, in the case of this guy, he's got a Crusader seal. So hit that Crusader seal with the Agrax Earthshade. But definitely try and make sure you get a little bit pulled in at the corners of that emblem, because it'll just help it stand out a little bit more. Good morning, Remnant of Chaos. How are you doing on this fine evening for me? Well, maybe morning for you. Not great. That's not good to hear. Well, I mean, as long as you got some studying in, you should be fine. I have faith in you. Of course, you know, that's also assuming you didn't stay up all night drinking and partying instead of studying for your exam at uni. Which, believe me, I have been in that situation before and did not handle it in the appropriate way. Which is probably why I'm a delivery driver instead of, you know, something fancy like an IT guy. Because I have poor decision-making abilities. But it's all good. So what are you majoring in at university? I've switched over to the Nuln Oil to do the weapons. Bachelor's in Biology. Ecotoxicology. So is that for plants that have medicinal benefits or poisonous animals that are found in nature? Neither? I guess maybe I should have paid more attention in school. Although it does sound like a very niche subject, I will say, for ecotoxicology. I mean, all visitors start as friendly until they're not. Toxic chemicals, metals, and radiation. Ah, I see. Unfortunately, I haven't had to deal with too many toxic chemicals. Yeah, she was. She was probably asking if I could take out the dogs. But she sees I actually have viewers for once and takes pity on me. I heard her step in behind me. But we've been trying to take turns when it comes to taking the critters out. Well, 2 dogs today because we're currently buried in snow. So mercury, cadmium, lead, PCB, hormonal interrupting chemicals. How do they affect the environment? What forms are they most toxic? Why? How do they affect humans, etc.? Yeah, that's a lot. Also, one of the reasons why, I don't lick the end of my paintbrush, because I don't know what kind of stuff is in that. Oh, it's just paint. It's like, yeah, granted, I don't know what's in the paint. Yeah, I never got past microbiology. I was taking classes for nursing at one point in time. So micro is as small as I got. Good on you. And hopefully it turns into a good career for you that you enjoy. Primatology is on going the Jane Goodall route. I'm assuming that's what you meant by primates, or has to do with primatology. Well, I wish you all the luck in the world with that. That seems like it'd be a very worthwhile and rewarding thing to do. I don't know if... I'm not saying I wouldn't like to enjoy studying primates, but at the same time, you kind of have to go where they are, out, with the exception of zoos. And, I've had, my experiences with some foreign countries and would like to stay at home from this point on. Granted, my experience with other countries was, an all expenses paid government vacation through the Marine Corps. I'm not saying it wouldn't be incredible. But yes, I agree that would be an opportunity of a lifetime to be able to go and experience that. And hopefully someday that will turn into a reality for you. Yeah. That is the $1 million question. Because there are lots of difficult people with difficult ideologies across those parts of the world. It's very unfortunate. I wish people could just grow up and get along, but 4,000 years ago, somebody's uncle killed somebody else's goat, so they have to sit there and fight about it for all eternity. I'm sorry to oversimplify it, but that's where a lot of problems come from. Somebody's family pissed off somebody else's family, 6 or 7 generations ago, and nobody can figure out how to stop fighting about it. But eventually, maybe. Maybe we'll live in a world where people grow up and can see past the end of their nose. Sorry, I get a little quiet when I'm doing these little fine details sometimes. Just try not to go overboard with the Nuln oil or the washes, whatever you want to call them. And I have puppies invading my space. Yep, Black Templar is currently working on the neophytes. I picked up the combat patrol. I've gotten about 4 of the initiates done. I still have 2 of the initiates left to paint. I've done the impulsor out of the box. And then I have the intercessors. I think it's one of those lore things. I mean, and it's also kind of a classification of the rank thing. Like other chapters and factions, actually give their neophytes power armor, where Black Templars are like, well, you haven't earned the right to have your power armor yet, so don't get your head blown off, and good luck with your training. Is kind of how I interpret, how they do their rank structure and models. I mean, technically nobody. I mean, look at the Imperial Guard, and of course, yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you look at the Sisters Repentia, who needs armor in general? I mean, you can just have some like Purity Seal tassels on, and you're good to go. Pardon me for being a little crass. Okay, trying to figure out what I have left to do on these guys. I know I've got to do some highlights on the metal. Got a lot of touch-ups to do on the black, and then edge highlighting on the black. But anyway, we're getting on towards 30 Krieg soldiers. Man, I'll bet that was fun. Fun. Like people that play horde armies, I'm just like, how do you do that? If you play Tyranids or Orcs, I mean, there's just so many models that you have to put together. Yeah, it's like after these guys, I do know I have a whole other combat patrol that I'm gonna have to buy and put together at some point. But sitting on a shelf behind me, I've got Chaplain Grimaldus and his retinue. I've got an Emperor's Champion. This weekend, I tried to go pick up the mini of the month. My store, my local Games Workshop store, did not get their minis in yet. So instead, I grabbed a Brutalis Dreadnought. So that's on the list of stuff to do. And I want 2 of those guys, so eventually I had to go pick up another one of him. So the whole second combat patrol, I need to pick up at least 2 units of Sword Brethren. And from that point, I have to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my army to get up to 2,000 points. I know I'm lacking in long range artillery for my army, and I know there's probably some good options out there. I just need to figure out what I want to do. Pardon me while I take off my magnifying glasses. I appreciate everybody for stopping by tonight, but I think we're done painting minis for the evening because it is almost 11 o'clock here. And I'm getting pretty tired. But yeah, at some point I will figure out what I want to do to fill out the rest of a 2,000 point list. I know I can go, online and metagame and yada 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 to figure out what the best option would be. But I just, I like the idea of the 20-man Crusader blob walking up the middle of the field with Grimaldus. Sword Brothers with the Emperor's Champion, Sword Brothers with High Marshal Helbrecht, and their own dedicated fast-moving vehicles. Yeah. And the Brutalis Dreadnought. I know I've read all the, online forums, this and that and the other, that, oh, you should take Redemptors. Redemptors are better. They've got the, long-range weapon. It's like, but Brutalis Dreadnoughts exist. And that's so much cooler. And I've seen a really cool kit online for Black Templars, or marketed toward Black Templar players, for the Brutalis Dreadnought. It puts like some extra like shoulder pads with a bunch of candles across the black, and then there's like this huge power sword that goes with it. And if I get a resin printer or find someone with a resin printer, I will probably buy the STL, or I will just order it from the website that makes that. But yeah, Rule of Cool is my main thing, which is, I think Power Fists are awesome, which is why I've got 2 Power Fist guys. Of course, one of them's not painted yet, but also Black Templars are are supposed to be a melee army. They're known for their sword skills, so it's like this guy, walking across, getting ready to draw a sword, get into it. So that's part of how it should be played. Here's my other Power Fist guy that I haven't started painting yet. And got somebody's skull hanging off his back. Some extra Crusade seals on him and stuff. I'm having way too much fun painting these guys and adding stuff. Like especially this guy. I mean, just charging in there, sword raised, seal flying in the wind behind him. Yeah, guard has some cool quotes, and of course guard has the commissars. Your foe is well equipped, well trained, battle hardened. He believes his gods are on his side. Let him believe what he will. We have the tanks on ours. It's kind of like the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps has certain quotes that from Chesty Puller and the Korean War. Well, we're surrounded. That simplifies the problem. I mean, he's not lying. But I'm not sure I'd ever want to be in a situation where my unit was surrounded. But yeah, it's puppy's on the other side of the door. I thought she was in here. starting to cry. But yeah, you know, 100% go for the rule of cool. Go for what you like. Don't let anybody tell you how you have to paint your models or build your models. Um, and and I know, from my understanding, they've changed the relic rules, so you don't actually have to have relics on your characters anymore. Um, there's like the helm of the Great Crusade on one of the sprues in this box. He's going on a sword. That helmet is going on a sword brother. That's just how it is. Even though it's supposed to be, a helmet for a marshal, it's going on a sword brother because that helmet is cool looking. But I need to get sword brothers so I can do that. And I assembled one of my minis wrong because there was supposed to be a sword brother in this box, but I put them together as an initiate. Used the wrong body because of things that I was reading for, best ways to build out your army. Like, there's a certain aspect of it. I want to have a competitive list, but I don't want to necessarily have the meta list. So being able, there are certain aspects, it just sounds 100% Black Templar. We're going to march across this battlefield and do our thing. That sounds like what Black Templars do, so that's a lot of what I'm going for with how I'm painting my minis and putting them together. It's going to be very melee focused, just like the lore states for them. But they're going to look good while they're doing it. But anyway, thank you guys for coming by and watching tonight. Tomorrow, if everything goes as planned, I won't be painting minis. Monday nights are my D&D night. I stream D&D on this channel. We're currently running the Rime of the Frost Maiden campaign. I'm one of the players, not the DM. But we'll be doing that from 7:30 to 10 p.m. Monday nights. And then this Tuesday, because Tuesdays and Thursdays are usually my other gaming nights or putting together minis. I may stream a little bit tomorrow during the day. I don't know, since I don't have to go to work because we're buried in snow. We'll figure that out tomorrow. Anyway, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 10 p.m. is what I'm looking for as my normal streaming schedule. We'll either be playing video games or we'll be, assembling and painting minis. Mostly painting. I find the assembling to be too tedious to do on stream, so I will do that off stream and take care of that. And we just do the painting here. So Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 10 p.m. should be my regular schedule. Although this Tuesday there's a special 40K Coliseum event that I might use to get a game in because I'm so far out of practice since I haven't played since 5th edition, but really want to start playing the tabletop again. So we'll play it by ear. Of course, it might still be too cold and snow everywhere for me to want to go to a gaming store. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday, but hopefully tomorrow night, D&D 7:30 to 10 p.m. Tuesdays and Thursdays 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. We'll either be playing video games or painting minis for the tabletop. So until then, I will see you all later. Everyone have a good night. Good luck at university, and just in general, have a good life, and we will see you next time.